everyone? Welcome back. Chasing Winners, your number one show for all DFS gambling-related sports talk. We're going to call this episode 2 for week 1 of the NFL season. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Baumohl, Gambling DFS Tips on Twitter. And as I will hopefully be joined by the same two guys every week, I was joined by these two guys the first week for when we did our preseason kind of stuff. Same two guys every week, hopefully. First, Kyle Mastoloni, K Mastoloni on Twitter. Kyle, say what's up.
Hey, what's up? We made it.
It's as easy as it gets. And the other JP Lyon, Viking fan, JP on Twitter. JP, say what's up.
What's up, everybody? It's a great day for pretty much every fan of the NFL. Week 1, well, okay, maybe not a great day for Ravens fans, but other than that, pretty much a great day for everybody.
No need to take a shot at the Ravens fan as we're recording on Thursday night when Gus Edwards and Marcus Peters, they both have just torn their ACL. It seems to be a thing for the Ravens this year. Good news is that I have a Giants fan and a Vikings fan on the podcast, so we're still, about 33 injuries away from being worse than either of those two teams, so that's good. Let's do a couple things. We'll do a couple housekeeping before we get into this episode. So let's do this, wherever you guys are listening or if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, like, leave a review for us. If you guys like and subscribe, it helps the algorithm. I don't understand the algorithm. People way smarter than me handle that algorithm. But it helps us get, more views and obviously helps us keep it free and helps us give you guys this information. We're kind of trying to hopefully give you guys some entertainment and some information along the way. And hopefully it's kind of just your weekly listening for maybe you grab a couple pieces of information and just kind of listen to us talk. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you do, please feel free, subscribe, like, review, rate, comment, whatever you guys are listening on. I think that'll make it easier for us, obviously. So guys, let's go through a couple things before we get into the games real quick. I want to go over a couple betting strategies that I have and then a couple betting strategies that you have. So Kyle, I'll start with you. Is there any certain number one betting strategy you like to give people, whether for NFL generally, however you kind of like to look at it?
I mean, with the NFL, and I think we could all attest to this, usually what you think is going to happen with the betting line, is a trap. And it doesn't usually happen that way, and you just gotta essentially fade the public.
So you talked about that. I don't know where I got this from. I got this from somewhere. If I knew, I'd be able to attribute who it was from. But we talk about this all the time in our Discord. We call it a chandelier game. When you walk into these Vegas casinos and they have these big, massive chandeliers and these huge things hanging from the ceiling, it's not because they lose so much money every week. So when you look at a line and you think something's too easy, and we'll go over some of these games, and some of them kind of look like that, sometimes it is. And sometimes you have to eat it, and sometimes you have to say, hey, I'll be the mouse. I see the cheese. I know it's in a trap, but maybe I can get the cheese out right before the trap closes. I think sometimes you have to do that, and sometimes you almost feel better being like, you know what, I'm just going to take the side that I know is a trap, and I know I'm walking into a trap, and if I get caught, I get caught. I think that's kind of what Kyle's talking about. If something looks too good to be true, it is too good to be true. JP, is there any certain betting strategies, whether NFL or general, that you like to tell people?
Well, I mean, on that, Bucks minus 7.5 tonight, and I'll be following for the chandelier tonight. But as far as strategies go, I mean, it's always easier to take your betting advice from someone who knows what they're doing, like Ryan.
Well, thank you.
That's why usually I would just follow what he says. But also, if you take your own picks and you get someone's research, but also take your own picks, makes it a lot easier when you lose it, because then you're not blaming someone like Ryan for pick losing. You're just blaming yourself.
And I think you kind of also brought up a good point there too, even kind of going around it a little bit, which obviously I'll take the compliment, so thank you. But I think one of the most important things, and this is for me, for betting, for DFS, for anything, is the people that act like they're too good for anybody else's information, those are the people that don't know anything. Because I consider myself a pretty decent gambler. I think I call it the lab, as you guys know, where it's kind of, I have a certain kind of strategy that I do for a lot of different sports, and it does work for a lot of different sports. But at the end of the day, I still take other people's opinions, and if somebody's got an opinion and they've got a strong opinion, for me, it's stupid not to listen to them. And I say this whether it's like from this kind of standpoint. I tell people when you're doing a job interview, like this is the number one thing you can say is like when somebody asks what your weakness is or what your strength is, you can say, hey, one of my strengths is I know what my weaknesses are. I know what I'm not good at. I know what I need to work on. I know what I'm going to listen to other people and help me about. But I know I'm good at this stuff. And I think that applies to betting and DFS too, is that there are certain guys that are good at certain things and there are guys that are and girls that are good at, other things. So I think it's kind of taking information from everybody and then you processing it and you deciding what you want to do with that information, but taking information from a lot of different point of views. I think that's a good way to do that. For me, for NFL betting strategies, this is a general one. You minimize your losses, you maximize your profits. I know it sounds stupid, but like you guys know, whether it's for UFC, for NFL parlays, for stuff like that, like if we get to a point where we can hedge and guarantee a profit, even though it cuts out from if we actually hit the parlay, that's usually kind of what I do because you always want to minimize your losses, maximize your profits. And people a lot of times get too greedy. They see, I can win my 25-1 bet and, who cares if I just lose this $5 bet or whatever. But at the end of the day, if your $5 bet is what you're betting on another game, that allows you to bet on another game. At the end of the day, we're here trying to have fun, trying to maybe make a little money along the way, but you never want to be betting something that you can't afford, whether that's, gambling, DFS. And that's kind of where I was going to say for DFS, for my strategy and for gambling, pick your bankroll for the year. Your NFL season is whatever. You can say, hey, I want to lose $100 or I'm okay. Not I want to lose, but I'm okay losing, whatever. Pick something that is at a point where it's obviously not cutting into you paying your bills and you doing all that. Pick that number out and divide it however you want. Maybe you say I want to lose or I can lose, let's say, $1,600 this year. That's just a number you have there, or $1,700 for 17 weeks. And you're like, I'm just going to spend $100 a week on DFS or something like that. However you do that, I think that's a good way of bankroll management because you don't want to go so heavy early in the season that you're now chasing later in the season and then you're potentially spending money you don't really have or can't afford. That's obviously something you never want to do. In terms of an NFL betting strategy as well, I think I correlate my DFS and my bets, and I think people that do that are good at it, whether with prop bets, whether with other things, just for spreads or for totals or whatever, playing guys that you like in DFS. If your projections are good for DFS, chances are they're going to be good for your bets. Look for your props where it's not necessarily just like yards or stuff like that. Like there's a couple props I like in week 1 of like passing attempts over or like rushing attempts over or under, things like that, where it's like, hey, if you think a guy's going to get 5 more carries than the line has it, that's a great value in your prop bet. An NFL strategy for betting and DFS. Never listen to a coach. When a coach says something, completely ignore it and disregard it the second it comes out of his mouth. Because every single time a coach is like, oh, this guy's going to be our workhorse, or we're going to go with the hot hand, or we're going to whatever, and it is never the case. Because when you think about it, why is a coach going to tell the other team their strategy? Now, if they're talking about injuries and, hey, this guy's going to be out and this guy's not going to play, there's a chance that's, obviously correlated better. But why is a coach going to give the other team a strategy? So when he says, hey, this guy's going to be our workhorse, he may be, but don't listen to what the coach says. Don't make your decisions based on what a coach says. Kyle talked about it earlier. Public bets, public money. So it's talking about when you're looking at what percentage of the people are betting a certain side, and then where is the line going and how is the money going. Public bets can be a good thing. They can be positive, especially if the line's moving in the way of the public. Sometimes the lines are just wrong. The public hops on it and the public is right. But other times the public sees a spot that they think is too easy, and obviously it's gone just like that. And then my number one NFL betting strategy, I hate teasers to begin with, but if you're teasing, never tease across zero. If you tease across zero, you're wasting points, you're wasting money. There's no point in doing it. So when I say tease across zero, let's say the team is -4 and you're going to do a 7-point teaser, you're now teasing it to +2, and you've lost that -0.5, 0, +0.5, because basically there's no difference between that and the -1 and the +1, especially with that 0 in the middle. So teasing across zero makes it, not worth it. If you're going to tease a team across zero where they're like a small favorite, instead you should put them in a money line parlay. That's how you can get your best value out of it. If a team's -4 or -5, you think they might not cover, throw them in a money line parlay. I think that's kind of a good way to do it. And then a couple quick Draftkings strategies. I know you guys don't play DFS as much. You guys are kind of more the betting aspect of it. But the Draftkings, couple DFS strategies I have. I mainly do MMEs. Mass multi-entries, whether it's a 20 max. I rarely do 150 max, but a lot of times a 20 max, maybe sometimes a 3 max. But the idea behind that is basically creating your player pool, figuring out what percentage of guys you want to use and using those in your player pool. Stacking is always important, especially in tournaments. You want to stack quarterbacks with receivers, with running backs. You can stack running backs and receivers without a quarterback potentially. And then the number one thing which people don't do, which I always tell them in DFS, is you can always stack a quarterback with the defense against it. Because when you're playing a defense, you're not looking for them. You're not scoring points off of how many points they give up. Sure, you'd like them to pitch a shutout, and sure, whatever. But like last year, a team we talked about like Miami. Miami gave up some points at certain points of the year, but their turnover rate, their sack rate, their touchdown rate last year, especially with Xavier Howard, it was just crazy where it's like they can afford to give up whatever, and you're not really doing that. So if guys want to play the best defenses in DFS, you want to play the best defenses, but you want to play the defenses that have that turnover, that sack upside, that kind of stuff. And I think that's kind of important in terms of DFS. So we'll kind of go through a couple more as we go through all of that. But let's start on this first game. Kyle, I'll start with you. The Jets are at the Panthers. Panthers are a 4-point favorite. The over-under is 44. What are your thoughts on this game?
The Sam Darnold revenge game. We're getting it first week of the season. I mean, I am on Panthers minus 4. I think they are the better football team. Christian McCaffrey is going to get a ton of touches from a fantasy perspective of just quick checkdowns there, as he always does. And then, yeah, I think Darnold himself has a pretty good game as well, playing against his old team. He knows the schemes he's running against. So hopefully he's able to make some calls at the line and make something happen.
JP, what are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not super interested in the game, but I think I am interested to see how the Panthers receivers do for a fantasy perspective. I think I have DJ Moore in one league and Curtis Samuel in another league, so that I'll be interested to see. I'm also on Panthers minus 4. It's not necessarily like a play I'll be taking personally, but for the purposes of this, if I have to take something, probably Panthers minus 4. I just don't know if somehow the Jets offense decides that they suddenly want to play for Zach Wilson. They actually want to perform. Now they've got a new guy in there, but yeah, that's what I'm interested in.
So a couple of notes that I have on this game. I have 65% of the money is on the Panthers. Line hasn't really moved at all. It's kind of fluctuated a little bit, but it's pretty much stuck right at that minus 4 where it's been. I think the Jets can be kind of better than people think. I don't think they're going to be that good, but I do think they can be better than people think. I personally love the over in this game. I think this is going to be a shootout. I think this is two teams that can score offensively and defensively, even not necessarily with the best defenses. I think there's two potentially turnover-prone quarterbacks, but two quarterbacks that can also sling it. I like the over. I think at 44, that's a good number. My official pick, I would go the Jets plus 4. I also like the over 44, like I said. And then a couple DFS plays. I'll go through a couple DFS plays each game. I know you guys, like I said before, you guys are kind of more of the betting stuff. But if you have any input on any of the DFS or fantasy plays, feel free to always hop in and let me know. Zach Wilson at 5K. I think he's some decent value. Corey Davis 4.9K, especially if Jamison Crowder's out. I like Corey Davis at 4.9K. And going off that, Elijah Moore is 3K. If we're looking to think Zach Wilson is going to potentially, sling that ball down the field, Elijah Moore is obviously the guy that's running the more deep routes as opposed to a guy like Corey Davis. From the Panthers side, Darnold's 5K. McCaffrey might be the most popular guy on the slate, but he's a great play this week. He's 9.5K. DJ Moore is 6.1K. I like him. Robbie Anderson, 5.7K. So I'm going to look to stack this game a couple different ways. I think this is a game that people may sleep on a little bit in terms of the total. I think it's a good bet for the over. I think the Jets are a decent bet. And I also think, like I said, stacking, going potentially heavy in this game for DFS could be beneficial. And obviously, like I said, we're recording this on a Thursday night, so things can change. So make sure you're following us on Twitter and make sure you're reading the stuff that I put out towards the end of the week because things can definitely change. Let's go to the next game I have on our sheet. JP, the Steelers are at the Bills. The Bills are a 6.5-point favorite. That over-under is 48. What are your thoughts on the Steelers-Bills game?
Well, I like the Bills this year. If you remember from our preseason pod, I picked them to win the Super Bowl. So I do think that they come out strong in their first game. I like them minus 6.5 here. Again, it's not my favorite bet, but I do like it better than the Panthers pick. I'm interested to see if they can kind of replicate the success they had last year, or if Roethlisberger and Tomlin are going to take it as kind of a revenge game for the way they played last year against the Bills. And it's going to be, how's that offense going to look with Najee Harris? I think I'd like to see him maybe run the ball off the field. We'll see.
Kyle, similar thoughts on the game?
Yeah, this is an interesting season-long fantasy game for me because I have Josh Allen as my quarterback and also Najee Harris as my running back in multiple leagues. So I'm definitely going to be watching this one. It seems like a bit of a, I hate to say, I want to hear what the public numbers are because I am on the Bills minus 6.5, but I'm not very confident in it. It might not be a personal play that I make, but for the purpose of the pod, Bills minus 6.5, definitely.
So I'm glad you asked, and I'm going to get into this, and I think week one's one of those weeks where how do I phrase this? The results of the game may not necessarily dictate how these teams' seasons are going to go. Jacksonville won the first game last year. Let's not forget that. Obviously, not saying, they beat, the Patriots. Obviously, the Patriots sucked last year. Or they beat the Chiefs or, whatever. But there's a lot of stuff that can happen in week one. It's not necessarily going to be the result of what's going to happen for the season. And obviously 6.5 points is a lot of points to begin with. 70% of the money is on Buffalo, and that line hasn't moved an inch. Hasn't even thought about moving. 6.5 is right at that spot where it's if 70% of the people are betting on it and 70% of the money is on Buffalo, then that line's going to a touchdown because they're not giving you under a touchdown if they're going to have 70% of the money on it. So the fact that this is still 6.5, everyone loves Buffalo. It's in this game. It's also for the season. Everyone thinks Buffalo's going to have a great season, which I'm not saying they won't. Everyone thinks Pittsburgh's going to struggle this year. I'm not saying they won't. But in terms of this game, whether they win or they don't, I think the Steelers 6.5 is a great play. I really like the Steelers 6.5 here. I also lean the under 48. I think there's a chance that it goes way, way over. I also think there's a chance it's a 23-10 game, something like that, where the Steelers, I think, can kind of actually win this game by 7-10 points because I think they can get out to somewhat of a lead. I think Najee's a good back they can use. Obviously, they'll throw to him a bit, but I think they're a team that can kind of throw those short passes with Ben, run the clock down in a way if they are up. But instead of, I do lean the under, but like I said, Steelers plus 6.5, that would be my official pick for this game. Let's go on to the 49ers at the Lions. So I'll start here. So 75% of the money is on San Francisco. That line hasn't moved. And obviously, we talked about it with 6.5 for the Bills. At 7.5 for San Francisco, that's a key number because if it's going to drop any more, it's going to go below a touchdown or to a touchdown. If we're going up any more, then obviously it goes to 8. It's not as big of a deal from 7.5. But once it starts getting to 8.5 and 9, now you're looking at 2 possessions. So obviously that becomes a big deal. Like JP said earlier when he was talking about the Bills, that he's high on the Bills. You guys listened to the first episode we put out. I'm not high on San Francisco, and I maybe I'm going to be completely wrong on this. And like I said, there's still a chance that they could even still be good after game one if it's not what they're looking for in game one. Because I think they're especially going to Detroit and think that they're going to go and kill the Lions because it's the Dan Campbell Lions. Like, how good can these Lions be? But I think it's a good spot for Detroit because we talk about it for week one. If there's any week, if I don't think Dan Campbell's a bad head coach, but if people that do, if there's any week that these Lions are going to go, what'd he say, head crack and knee skull, whatever, he said something about that, whatever they're going to do with that, I mean, week one's the time they're going to do it. That's when they're going to do it. San Francisco is coming east, playing a 1 o'clock game from the West Coast. Obviously, Detroit's not on the East Coast, but it's still Eastern time zone, still an early game. I just think it's too many points for a road team in week one that I don't think is all that good coming east, having to play early. Do I think the Lions win the game? No, but I think they cover the 7.5, and I actually like it quite a bit. So my official pick on this is Lions plus 7.5. JP, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, that makes me feel better because I didn't love really either side on this, and that if I had to take a side, it'd probably be Detroit. So I'm interested to see how Goff does with the new team, obviously, and if Dan Campbell's strategy is going to be any good. I'm on the total here, over 44.5 points. I think Goff can sling it, and I think, do we know who's starting for the 49ers yet?
Yeah, it's Garoppolo.
Garoppolo, yeah. So he can obviously throw the ball. He tends to win games for them. Yeah, I think 44.5 is sitting a little low, so I'll be on the over for that.
Kyle, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, I kind of agree with everything you said there about it just being too many points. I mean, going on the road, 1 o'clock game. I had kind of the same mindset as you did going into this, and I knew the public was going to be hammering San Francisco as well. I mean, I'm on Detroit minus plus 7.5 as well. I'm not as confident in it as you are necessarily, but that would definitely be my pick here.
So we go from one good game to the next. The Jaguars, they go to Houston. The Jaguars are a 3-point favorite. The over-under is 45. This is another classic game that we talked about of everyone's going to be higher on one team and lower on the other. Got how the Texans can't be worse. The Deshaun situation, their head coach sucks. They're not good. They're whatever. And the Jaguars on the other side, they got Trevor Lawrence. They got the number 1 pick with Trevor Lawrence. They've obviously had the ETN injury, but Urban Meyer's the new head coach. Maybe people think that he, can be successful. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. This is another one of those games where it seems like everybody's on one side and they're not thinking about the other side. And this is one of those games, and we talk about it. I call it a hold your nose and pray game. Just hold your nose and don't even, just hope for the best. This is a 1 o'clock Sunday game. Just don't even watch. You don't want to watch this game because chances are when you bet on the Texans, it's not going to go well. But I'm just going to hope it does go well this first week because I like Houston at +3 against Jacksonville. 65% of the money's on Jacksonville. Line's gone from 3 to 2.5 back to 3, which is significant because 1, the money's on Jacksonville, so the line shouldn't be going down. And 2, like we talked about earlier, the touchdown, between 2.5 and 3, that's the difference between winning by a field goal or pushing it a field goal. So it's obviously a big, difference in those numbers. It's another similar situation to the Lions. It's one of those where it's like you just hold your nose and you pray and you just hope you're on the right side. I lean the under, I would think. My official pick is the Texans +3. In terms of DFS plays, James Robinson, 6.4K. I think he's going to be popular, but I think he should be a decent play. I don't love him as much, but I think he's a decent play this week. Kyle, your thoughts on the spread, Jacksonville -3 at Houston?
Well, what a dumpster fire of a game here, right? I mean, we had to have 1 or 2 here in week 1, and like you said, it's hold your nose and pray here. My official pick on this game, the total was set to 45 when we looked at it earlier today, and you posted those lines. So my pick was actually not on the spread at all. I'm just staying completely away from that there and going Jacksonville, going the over. Actually, I know you were on the under there, but I just think both defenses have shown a propensity to give up points in the past. Trevor Lawrence will hopefully come out slinging in his first game. We'll see. I have some questions about the Houston offense, but this is a hold your nose and pray type game that I'll probably just be staying away from.
Yeah, and I initially leaned the under, but like I said, it wouldn't be an official bet for me right now. It's nothing. It was just something looking at it potentially. I thought 45 may be a little high for 2 teams that aren't great. JP, what are your thoughts on the game?
Well, I don't know why you guys are so unhappy about this game. I mean, when the Vikings inevitably give up a touchdown on the first possession of the game, I'm going to be switching over to this one and watching the hell out of it. I've got the Jags -3 here. We talked about public side and non-public side, and I typically tend to say, well, screw it, I'm still going to ride with the public because I can't justify betting on the Texans. I can't do it. I won't do it. You talked about James Robinson. He should be great fantasy play, whether you're doing DFS or season long this year. I don't know who. They don't have anybody to replace J.J. Watt, obviously. And maybe Tyrod Taylor can get a couple scores against Jacksonville, but if Trevor Lawrence doesn't have a great game today, then there's going to be serious questions there. So I've got Jags -3.
Speaking of serious questions, have you been in Texas long enough to have developed a Southern accent? Because I think you have it on certain things.
Do I really? Because I never even have like a Minnesota accent on most stuff. So let me know if you hear anything, please.
I don't know. There was a couple things that just sound like a little Southern cowboy, like I don't know. If you say something next time you say something that sounds like it, I'll point it out. But
because I'll say y'all every now and then. It's more just interchangeable with you guys, and both of them piss people off. So.
Well, I say y'all, and I used to always say, my mom was like, that's not a word, Ryan. It's like, well, if I say it, it's a word. People understand what I'm saying, so it's a word. All right, Seattle at Indianapolis. Seattle, a 2.5-point favorite. Over under is 50. Kyle, your thoughts on the game?
Well, now we go from the shittiest football game of the week to one of the best football games of the week. So these are two great teams. I mean, if you listen to our first pod, you know Ryan and I are both high on Indy. And they're getting 2.5 points at home here. So I'm on Indy 2.5 plus 2.5 here is my official pick. I mean, I'm hoping, like I said in my notes before, my messages to you guys, I'm hoping that goes up to 3 somehow, some way, so I could get that extra field goal. If not, I might have to buy the hook there, but I'm definitely leaning Indy here.
JP, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are I'm really proud of Kyle for buying a hook on this game. I lean the complete opposite way. This is one of my favorite picks of the week, and Seahawks minus 2.5, and I'm sure the public is doing that, and I'm sure that you're going to tell me that that's another stupid pick, but I don't. To me, it doesn't make sense to take Indy. I don't know. I mean, you tell me who their quarterback is for the game, because I do not know it.
It's supposed to be Carson Wentz. That's
okay.
I think Wentz is supposed to be. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean that's better than Jacob Eason. But I don't trust Carson Wentz here. I don't trust him against the Seahawks defense in the first game of the season. I think Russ has something to prove this year, and I think he's going to be throwing the ball all over the field. I hope he beats Xavier Rhodes on it. Absolutely burns him in the first game. So Seahawks minus 2.5.
So this is one of those games where the public is on Seattle, 70% on Seattle, but the line's moved with it. And obviously, there's been some news with Wentz coming back that you would think the line might go the other way, where Seattle opened up, I think it was +1, maybe +1.5, something like that. And now they're up to obviously 2.5. So the public's on Seattle, but this is what we talked about earlier. The line's moving with it. So this could just be a example of Vegas being like, you know what, maybe this line was wrong, or the money's coming in where the bets are coming in. So always when we're looking at public bets, you're looking at the public bets and the public money. So how much, let's say 70% of the people are betting on the Seahawks, but the people that bet more are betting on the Colts. So 50% of the money's on the Colts. I'm not saying that's what it is, but that's what you're looking at. So if the public money matches the public bets, a lot of times the line will move with it because the books are obviously just trying to get the 50-50 action. But when you see public being on one side and the line not moving, that usually indicates that there are public bets on that, but not the public money. So there's more bets, but there's not as much money that would equal it. So this is one of those games that's probably a stay away for me. Obviously, it's a great game, so you hate not betting, these kind of games. I think I'd lean Indy if taking a side, just because home, if Wentz is playing, I think Wentz has a decent year if he's healthy. I think getting back to Frank Reich, he just seems happier and a better mindset. He seems like one of those guys that plays with confidence that, people forget he had an MVP season before he got hurt. Let's say an MVP caliber season before he got hurt. Just seems like one of those guys that if he gets the confidence back and starts getting into one of those grooves, I think he can be good for them this year. Like I said, I don't know if I'm betting this game. If I did, I'd probably bet the under at 50, even though I hate it because I think both offenses are good, but I think both defenses are better than you think. So for the podcast, my official bet's going to be the under of 50, but I don't really like either, and I don't know if I'd be betting one way or the other. Let's go to another great game. So, JP, Arizona at the Titans. The Titans are a 2.5 point favorite. That over-under is 52. What are your thoughts on this game?
I like Titans here. I'm interested. They just got Julio Jones. I think that's going to be really fun to watch. I think the Titans are going to have a great year. The Cardinals added J.J. Watt, so that's also going to be fun to see. But for me, I think the Titans are the play here. Not even laying 3 at home, just 2.5. Probably another trap, but I'll fall for it. So Titans.
Kyle, same thoughts?
Yeah, this is a trap that I'm diving right into. You mentioned it before. There needs to be some of those where you just say, I know this is a trap, but I have to do it. I think Tennessee's a better football team, and they're playing at home, so it's hard. It's really hard for me to pick against them here. So
this is what I'll read you directly off my notes. Tennessee seems too easy. Offense on paper looks like weapons. They've got weapons everywhere. Defense can be a concern. So the issue with the defense with Vrabel is that I know they haven't necessarily had the best personnel defensively, but Vrabel being a defensive guy, like they've been horrendous defensively every year. Like not even being halfway decent and not even being able to kind of scheme up things where it's like that almost concerns me as much as like, I don't want to say anybody, but you can have a good defense if you've got good defense. It's like creating some sort of a defense or creating an average defense with bad players. And Vrabel hasn't even been able to do that, which kind of seems a little sketch to me in terms of a way. Like I said, I know I'm walking into a trap. I know it's probably way too easy for a reason, but for the pod, the Titans are a 2.5-point favorite. I'll take the Titans. I think it's probably a stay away game for me in terms of actually betting. But I do like the Titans for the purpose of this podcast. In terms of DFS plays, I think Derrick Henry is going to be popular as he should be, 8.8K. AJ Brown, 7.1K. You guys know my motto on AJ Brown. It is always AJ Brown wide receiver 1 season because AJ Brown is a wide receiver 1. He is a top 5 receiver in the NFL. He is at some point going to get that respect he deserves. Julio Jones, I think, is also a good play. I think he'll be still fairly popular at 6.8K. This is the kind of game you might look to stack, maybe even stack with Henry and one of the guys and not necessarily play Tannehill, although you obviously could play Tannehill. But the guy I like in this game, Anthony Ferguson, he's 3.2K. He's sneaky. Hasn't been playing as many snaps, or at least in the preseason. He was only kind of in more for passing downs. But guess what? For fantasy, you want passing downs. So that's what you're looking for there. On the other side, Arizona, Kyler Murray, 7.6K. DeAndre Hopkins, 7.8K. So I think both those are good values on DraftKings. And then a little preview of a prop bet that I may have. I like James Conner to score a touchdown because Arizona has shown that they don't like to give Chase Edmonds the ball inside the 5, inside the 10. I think James Conner is going to get a couple carries inside the goal line. I think James Conner to score a touchdown is going to be a good prop bet at some point. Whether you play him in DFS or not is a different story because I think I'm looking to pay up at running back this week for the most part. But I do think he gets in the end zone this week. Let's go to – this is actually sneakily a good game. The Chargers, they go to Washington. We'll call them the Washington football team. The Chargers are a 1-point favorite. Over-under is 44.5. Money on this game is 50-50. Like I said just before, it's sneakily one of the best games of the weekend. I think there's a lot of storylines here with what's that next step Herbert's going to take. That offensive line, obviously the weak point of that. Washington, what do they do well? They get after the passer. They've got Chase Young, arguably the best pass rusher in the NFL, at least the best young pass rusher in the NFL. My lean is Washington. I don't love it right now, but I do like it a little bit. So I think for the podcast, my official pick's going to be Washington. I could see myself making an actual bet on Washington. And then in terms of DFS, the only play I really like in this game would be the Washington defense. I think the Washington defense has a chance, like I said earlier. They may give up some points, but they can get after Herbert, get some sacks, potentially force some turnovers, and try and get in the end zone once. I think the Washington defense is a sneaky good defensive play this week. Kyle, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I'm on the football team +1 as well. It's hard not to. I mean, you said it best. Chase Young's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, playing against one of the worst offensive lines. He is going to pummel Justin Herbert on Sunday. But another thing that's interesting about this to me is Ryan Fitzpatrick always throws out these random wild card awesome games early in seasons. So maybe we'll get another repeat of that this week. And Washington +1 at home seems like the play here.
JP, same thoughts?
Yeah, I'm leaning the same way. It's not, my favorite play by any means. But like Kyle said, I want to see Chase Young. I want to see him get 4 sacks by himself this week. Still mad at Justin Herbert for Rookie of the Year last year. But I think Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing to Terry McLaurin, that could be sneaky good. A little dump offs to Antonio Gibson. He's got Logan Thomas there. They should be able to put up some points this week.
All right, JP, I'll let you talk first on this next game. Vikings at the Bengals. Vikings are a 3-point favorite. Over under is 47.5. Before you get into it, I will say 70% of the money is on the Vikings. Line hasn't moved, and like we talked about earlier, 3 is a key number. It seems like this might be a little bit of trouble for your Vikings at least week 1, JP.
You would think so, yeah. But I've devised a foolproof strategy here. I've long said that if we lose this game, it's a very good tell for me to not pay attention to the team the rest of the year. And thus, I'm taking the Vikings -3 because they, other than last year, they don't like to lose the first couple games and let me lose interest. They want to string me along and rip my heart out near the end of the season. So I think they win this game, and I think they win it by more than 3.
Well, the best is, and you can ask Kyle about this as a Giants fan, and I haven't experienced it as much, but I know he has and other teams have. You can win, you can lose, like you can go 0-2, 0-3 and be like, this season's done. And then with the Jets, like what the Jets did a couple years ago, it was 2 years ago, I think, where they rattled off like 6 or 7 in a row or something like that, and all of a sudden you're like 5-3, or you're like, hey, we were 0-3, now we're 5-3, and all of a sudden you've built that back up, and then you lose like 5 games in a row. That's almost worse because you've given up, then you're back, then you've given up again. So just to be in for the season, because everyone's in on week 1. You can always be in on week 1. Everyone thinks their team's great week 1. You can be in, and then once you're out, if you're out for good, it's not, it's at least not the roller coaster. At least they're just going to stab you in the heart and just bury your body. That's what they'll do.
Right, Ryan, you don't have to tell me what we did last year, because that's exactly what we did last year. We lost the first 3. We went 1-4 the first 5 games. And then we were in the wild card hunt, and then we lost to the Bears. And then once we lost to the Saints, we were eliminated, and that sucked.
Well, at least you didn't have the chance to miss a 30-yard field goal in the playoffs. That was
true. That was worse.
Definitely sucked.
That was far worse.
As a Billy Cundiff and a Ravens fan, I can tell you the exact same thing. Kyle, your thoughts on this game? The Vikings at the Bengals. Vikings 3-point favorite.
Yeah, I mean, JP might hate me for this one. I'm actually on Cincinnati +3 at home. I think both teams are pretty terrible. But Joe Burrow was playing really well before his injury. People forget that. They were losing ball games, but they were losing pretty close ball games against good teams, besides obviously your Ravens, where they just got pummeled. But yeah, I'm on Cincinnati here. Joe Burrow's connected back with his boy Jamar Chase, so that should help him out, getting him comfortable a bit. And they got weapons back. I just think Minnesota's one of if not one of the worst like 3 or 4 teams in the league, so it's hard for me to pick them, especially away from home.
I don't think Minnesota's gonna be good, but I do think there are a couple teams that are worse. I think Minnesota's probably gonna be next year, if we're looking at the draft, picking, I don't know, maybe like 7th, 8th, maybe something like that. I think that's kind of realistically where they might be picking. I'm with you though. I like the Bengals here +3. I think it's another one of those games I talked about where it may not necessarily, the result of this game it could dictate the rest of the season. It could, how these teams are, but it could just be one of those games where, like I said, it's a home dog. You pick the game, you bet the game, you hold your nose, and you hope for the best. In terms of DFS from this, obviously I like T. Higgins. Everyone likes T. Higgins. How can you not? Every day that goes by, I'm now slowly starting to talk myself into Jamar Chase, because everybody hates Jamar Chase. Nobody's going to play Jamar Chase. Something came out today that the NFL footballs are different because the college ones have stripes on them, so you can't see the end. I mean, Jamar Chase is the number 1 guy, if he's going to be literally not owned, to go for against this Vikings team. He could go for, 5 for 130 and 2 touchdowns? I mean, he could go for something like that crazy, because that's just what it is. All it takes is, and imagine if he catches one early, all of a sudden all of that Jamar Chase sucks, Jamar Chase drops. I mean, all that's gone from his head, from everyone's head. If he catches one early, I really think that, I know it's stupid, and I know he probably isn't going to be good, and I know it's probably a bad play, and I know I'm overthinking it. But it's like, Jamar Chase, how can you not play him if he's going to be like less than 5% owned? It's like, did you watch him in college? It's Jamar Chase. It's like unbelievable. It's like last year with Justin Jefferson, there was the 1 week, I forgot what it was, where it's like, I forgot who they were playing, and they're like, yeah, he's a good play, but it's not a great matchup. It's like, have you watched Justin Jefferson? He will run by anybody in football. Like, these guys that are just like, they're guys that they're peaking at their ceiling, they're matchup proof, and they're guys that are shutdown corners in the NFL, no doubt about it. But some of these guys, you don't play them based on the matchup. You just play them based on either their ownership or their projection or whatever you think they're going to do, because these guys, good offense will always beat good defense at the same level. It's tough to emulate that good offense consistently, which is why a lot of times defense does win championships. But I think that's kind of where I'm leaning in this game. And hopefully I don't play Jamar Chase, but I can see myself playing a lot of Jamar Chase. Let's go through a couple of these other games. These aren't the best games on the slate right now, but I'll go through this one first. The Eagles at the Falcons. The Falcons are a 3.5-point favorite. The over-under is 49. All I'm going to say is the Falcons are my kryptonite. I will always think they're better than they are. They'll have 312 first-round picks on their team, so I'll be like, how is this team not good? I watched all of these guys in college. They were the best players in college, and they're just not. Some of the guys they have are awesome. Matt Ryan does not get the love he deserves. Matt Ryan has been a great quarterback in the NFL for a long time. He's been productive. Falcons fans, a lot of teams would wish to have a Matt Ryan for a decade. That's all I'll say. 50-50 on the money. Line's kind of not really moving. It's right at that 3.5 number. It's definitely a stay away game for me, most likely in terms of an actual bet. My official pick, I think, will be the over 49. I think Jalen Hurts is a great DFS play this week. I like Jalen Hurts a lot. If you're going to play Jalen Hurts, obviously he runs, but you can also pair him with Devonta Smith. You guys know my love for Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor's one of those guys that can go off at any point. I know it's probably not the best play, but it's one of those guys that, similar to a Jamar Chase, can go off at any point. And then for the Falcons side, talking about Matt Ryan, Kyle Pitts, obviously probably going to be extremely high owned in a matchup like this. Everyone loves Kyle Pitts this year. Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage. I think this is a game that you can definitely stack it a couple different ways. And I'll explain that in my cheat sheet later on in the week. But Kyle, what are your thoughts on this Eagles at Falcons game, if any?
I'm actually on Philly plus 3.5, and I do like it. Like you said, the Falcons have been my kryptonite forever, and I just refuse to keep betting on them at this point. They seem to always be either in a super close game, blow a lead. They just don't stay away from drama. I do like that.
Okay, I'm switching my pick. Now that you're hopping off the Falcons, I'm officially taking the Falcons minus 3.5.
God damn it.
But that's just simply because the Falcons are like with me, where it's like with you. Like I know the second you hop off of them, that they're gonna win by 30. But if you were betting the Falcons, they'd lose by 30. So I'm glad you have a strong opinion on this game. But keep going. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, I bet on them. I bet on them way too much last year and suffered the consequences. So I just have to go against them at this point. But yeah, I mean, your love for Jalen Reagor will never cease to amaze me. You just refuse to get off of him, but hopefully he has a great day today and gets me a win here.
Last year, there was a point where there was 8 passes thrown to him. 8 passes. There's a decent sample size. And the shortest pass in those 8 passes was 21 yards. How can you not like that? The guy just runs down the field. It's all you got to do is catch 2 of them. That's why I like Jalen Reagor. He usually doesn't catch 2 of them. Or if he does, it's those screens and they suck. JP, I won't ask you about Jalen Reagor, but I'll ask you, Eagles at the Falcons. Falcons 3.5-point favorite. What are your thoughts?
I don't like Jalen Reagor. TCU guy. Screw him. I do like the Eagles, though. I like Jalen Hurts. I don't like the Falcons, and I refuse to bet on them.
The Falcons are a max bet for me now.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Super duper bang.
Kyle and I have to be wrong. We have to be wrong, but I'm going to take the Eagles plus 3.5. I like the Eagles to win the division, and so I think they'll win. They'll probably win half their games, but I think they take this one.
All right, Dolphins at the Patriots. I think the Patriots are gonna have a better season than people think. I think Mac Jones there is no quarterback controversy. I think Mac Jones is potentially an upgrade from Cam. I don't think it's a huge upgrade. I think it potentially is for some of the receivers in terms of production. But just having a guy and not having any kind of competition, I think, is going to help Belichick figure out what he needs to do with this team. 65% of the money is on New England, but the line moved from 2 to 3, so it did move across, or at least to that field goal number. I like the Patriots. They're one of my favorite bets of the week. I think they win this game pretty easily at the Patriots minus 3. Belichick, Mac Jones, I think that defense is going to be good this year. James White, a potential sleeper for DFS and season-long fantasy. I think he's always kind of that guy, especially if Mac Jones is going to need those kind of easy, check down, those kind of throws, those flat throws. I think James White's always important for them. My official pick's the Pats minus 3. I like this pick a lot. Either of you have any strong thoughts on this game?
Not really a strong thought, but I'm higher on the Dolphins than a lot of other people, it seems like. I mean, if you listen to the last pod and based off my pick for Coach of the Year, you would know that. But yeah, I'm on Dolphins plus 3 here. I think they could at least keep it close. Tua has this connection with Jalen Waddle again. That'll probably help him out a bit, and hopefully he could get cooking. Hopefully the Dolphins get this plus 3. And I mean, they're playing a rookie quarterback as well, as much as we like to be high on some of these guys. It is his first game in the NFL league, and he could see some trouble.
JP?
Yeah, I disagree. I'm on Pats -3. I expected last year. I fully expected Belichick to take Hurts in the second round because he has that connection with Saban, and I was really expecting him to take the Alabama quarterback, either Tua or Hurts, but he didn't, and he just waited a year and then took one. So now that he has his Alabama quarterback, I do think that they should have kept Cam and probably started him, because if Mac Jones is bad, you don't have anywhere to go. You'd rather have Cam Newton start, be bad, or be good and just stick with Cam. Or if he's bad, then you can go to Mac Jones and he's the hero. But I think he's going to be good. I think Belichick's going to do well with Mac Jones, and I have no idea who he's throwing to. But I like the Pats here.
So, all right. How do I ask this question? Let's put it this way. If the Patriots are going to, JP, this is for you. If the Patriots are going to win 11 games with Mac Jones as their quarterback, how many games would they have won with Cam Newton as their quarterback?
I don't think Cam is very good, so probably 8 or 9.
Kyle, you think similar to that? A couple wins. You think Mac's worth a couple wins to this Patriots team?
Yeah, I mean, I think more 9 or 10. I think he's only worth 1 to 2, but he is definitely worth some wins. I think Cam could be a value to a different team, but he just wasn't a fit in New England, I feel like.
All right, let's go on. Browns at Chiefs. Chiefs are a 5.5-point favorite. Over under is 55. 60% of the money is on Kansas City. Line has moved slightly from 5 to 5.5. Not necessarily a key number, so it's not a huge movement, but it is moving with the public. I'll start. I think Kansas City week 1 to me is one of those teams coming out, trying to prove a point off that Super Bowl loss. This is where Patrick Mahomes and the guys come out and they put up a 50 burger on the Browns. I think the Browns are going to be good this year. I don't think they're going to be bad. But I think this is just one of those games where Mahomes, all his weapons, 5.5, I think I'd probably take it up to a touchdown, but I think realistically the Chiefs win this by double digits. In terms of DFS, this is always one of those tough games because I hate playing the Chiefs. There's always so many weapons, especially with the Browns too. You've got 2 running backs. You've got 2 legitimate receivers to play, potentially 3. You've got both quarterbacks you can play. This is one of those games that I'll dive into more. But right now, maybe just a stay away game in terms of DFS, or just playing some random guys here or there and just hoping it necessarily doesn't go as high as you want. Maybe the Chiefs win this game. I don't know, let's say something 28-10, something like that. I think that's definitely a possibility. Kyle, your thoughts on this Browns at Chiefs game?
It is hard for me to bet against the Kansas City Chiefs. Once again, it's one thing, if you watch my last video, I have Mahomes MVP, Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. I'm super high on them. It's the revenge season for them, and they're going to be trying to prove a point week 1. So that 5.5 line at home seems too tempting not to take. So I'm on the Chiefs -5.5 here.
JP?
Same line of thinking. It's the revenge season for them, coming off that loss to Brady. Division game at home, all those weapons that still at Mahomes' disposal. 5.5 is not enough points, so that's my bet.
All right, Packers at the Saints. Packers are 3.5-point favorite. Over under 49.5. It's at the Saints, but it's obviously in Jacksonville after the hurricane. So 65% of the money is on Green Bay. Line's gone from 2 to 3.5, so it's gone across that field goal total number. It's a bad spot for the Saints. They're playing in Jacksonville. Players are still recovering kind of from everything that's going on. The note that I put down is there will be a hurricane game, but this isn't it. We always talk about that Katrina game where the Saints came back and there was no way you could bet against the Saints. The Saints will have their hurricane game. They will have the game where everyone comes back and they rally. They may win this game. They may, I'm not saying, but their hurricane game will be at home in front of the New Orleans fans, not in Jacksonville. I think Rodgers comes out with a point to prove after this offseason. I think people, he's a bad teammate, he's this, he's that, and none of that's true. If you talk to his teammates, if you listen to how all of that, it's Aaron Rodgers did what he wanted to do. He was trying to better the organization, trying to stand up for a lot of people that didn't get what they should have gotten in years past. And I think the younger guys respect that because he didn't throw anybody under the bus. And I think they look at that as, hey, the other thing is this guy is an MVP. This guy is good enough to do that. You need to be good enough to do that. And Aaron Rodgers is good enough to do that. The Packers go as Aaron Rodgers goes, -3.5. I don't love that it's the hook with it. I think if you get a chance, if you can buy down to that -3 to cover your ass on a push, if it's, -130, something like that, I don't hate that. My official pick for the podcast is the Packers -3.5. JP, your thoughts?
Yeah, Kyle, are you listening? Buy the hook on this one if you're taking the Packers. No. This is one of my best bets of the week again. Packers -3.5. I don't like the Saints. I don't think they're going to be good this year. I mean, I love Jameis, but they're just not going to be the team that people think they are. Or the Saints teams of past. It's not going to be that team. The Packers are going to be good this year. They're going to win the division. Probably going to win a couple of games in the playoffs. They're probably going to go to the Super Bowl and really make me unhappy. And I think Rodgers comes out with, like you said, he's got a point to prove. -3.5 is not enough. Also, Tulane had their hurricane game first game, so Saints could have their hurricane game first game. We'll see.
Fair. Kyle, your thoughts?
Yeah, and my pick, I just took a bit of a different approach on it than you guys. I'm actually on the under in this game, under 49.5. I think it's a bad spot for the I do think it's a bad spot for New Orleans playing a home game at a neutral site, and it's just weird, a really weird situation playing in Jacksonville. I mean, they scheduled it to make it as hard on Green Bay as possible. I was reading some of the I was reading some of the behind the scenes on that, and it's just ridiculous the lengths that they went, looking at exact travel time for fans, travel time for the team, and all that. It was ridiculous. But yeah, I'm on the under in this game because I don't really know what to expect out of Jameis Winston in the New Orleans offense. Still, I know he had a pretty solid preseason, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what we have out of them. And then I think it's either going to be a low scoring game in total, or the Packers are going to hammer them. So I probably should be on the Packers 3.5, but I'll lean the under just to be different here.
All right, let's get to the final game before Sunday Night Football. Final game that we're going to cover on this episode. We'll do another video. We'll try and get another video out, a short one of just Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. Try and get those out to you. But let's go over this Denver at the Giants game. Kyle, we'll end this way. You are a Giants fan. The Broncos are a 3-point favorite. Over/under is 41.5. What are your thoughts on this Giants game?
Oh, so I'm actually gonna be at this game this weekend. I don't expect a lot out of either team here. That over/under number is very, very low at 41.5. But if you watch the Giants last year, I mean, the offense is just absolutely anemic, but they play their asses off on defense, man. Blake Martinez is a dog. And then their secondary is getting a little better with a few additions this year. So it seems ridiculous to go in under 41.5, but to avoid taking a side here and to avoid just hinging my wagon to Giants +3, I'm going on the under 41.5 because this is going to be probably not the worst quality football game of the week, but the most boring football game of the week.
JP?
I think Teddy can score. I love Teddy. I've always loved Teddy. I really hope Barkley does well because he fell to my second round pick in my first draft, so that was awesome. But I'm on the Giants +3. I somehow managed to bet every single NFC East team that's playing on Sunday, so that's definitely not a good sign. But I am on the Giants +3.
Okay, so I'm going to be on the Broncos -3, and let me tell you why. You talked about Teddy Bridgewater. Good quarterbacks win, great quarterbacks cover. Teddy Bridgewater, 35-14 as a starter against the spread, 21-3 against the spread on the road as a starter. And my favorite stat, the Giants, they are 0-4 against the spread week 1 the last 4 years. You've got a guy who is a monster against the spread on the road, going to a team that doesn't cover at home on week 1. Teddy Bridgewater -3 at the Giants, one of my favorite bets of the weekend. I really, really like it. And I think you can throw the Broncos in a bunch of money line parlays. Like I said, we're going to go over the Sunday night game and the Monday night game in another short video. It'll probably be a 10-15 minute video, just something quick, something easy to get that. So we don't kind of I don't want to keep these episodes, hour and a half, 2 hours long, try and keep it shorter somewhat listening for you guys. But yeah, we kind of just went through each game. I gave you some of my DFS thoughts of that, per game, some of the strategies in general. But like I said, make sure you're following me. I'll have my either an article and/or cheat sheet out later in the week. I do my live streams every Sunday morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, once we get inactives out. So we go through that. We talk gambling, the bets that I'm going to be putting out. We talk my 20 max, what I'm doing, inactives, how do things shake things up. Everything's on my Twitter, like I said, and on the website, betwithbaumohl.com. I'll put that in the description of this video as well. So make sure you guys are checking that out. It's not just NFL stuff. College football, I know we had a good college football weekend last week in terms of bets. UFC's up there. Kyle and I, we do the UFC podcast also for, every time there's a pay-per-view or what we call a numbered event, not the Vegas or the ESPN cards, the real cards. Make sure you're checking me out on Twitter, Gambling DFS Tips on Twitter. Make sure you're checking out my website, betwithbaumohl.com. Like I said earlier with these guys, Kyle Mastoloni, K Mastoloni on Twitter, JP Lyon Viking fan, JP on Twitter. Feel free to DM us any suggestions you may have for the show. Like I said, we're kind of just trying to figure this out as we go. So any suggestions, anything you like, anything you didn't like, feel free to DM us. Feel free to let us know. All of that kind of stuff is great. And like I said before we started, no matter where you're watching, liking, subscribing, that helps the algorithm. It helps us. It helps us keep it free. Like I said, giving you guys some hopeful information that you guys can use, but also providing some entertainment, and just giving you guys, an hour or two a week of some listening and some watching that you guys can enjoy. Now the football's back. And speaking of football being back, the game's going to start in about an hour or so. So we're going to kind of wrap this up so I can get this thing edited and hopefully get it out either tonight or Friday morning when you guys may be listening to this. But guys, thank you guys for joining me. We'll do this again every week. And like I said, we'll put out another short video for Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. Maybe going forward, we might change it up a little bit and, have a little bit different of a format and maybe more gambling, more DFS, or kind of switch it up, maybe break it into 2 podcasts. We'll kind of figure out all of that as we go. But like I said, let us know what you think. Do you want a betting and DFS podcast in one? Do you want 2 things separate? However you guys like your information, you let us know because we're kind of here just to help you guys. So like I said, thank you guys for listening. And then look out for another short video that we'll put out at some point over the weekend for Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. So thank you guys for listening, and everyone, best of luck week 1.